Welcome back, and let's talk about sugar now, where we have seen the raw sugar prices globally trade very close to those 5-year highs there, and there are various factors which seem to be supportive as well. To begin with, it is about India not producing so much raw sugar but as much of white sugar, and that is what is more lucrative, and especially after the Food Secretary statement yesterday that the companies should focus more on refined and specialty sugar production really seems to have done the trick there. Joining us then is Atul Chaturvedi. He's Executive Chairman, Shree Renuka Sugars. Mr. Chaturvedi, hi, thank you so much for joining us. First of all, how do you see the price move coming in? Sure, there were some expiries as well in the international markets yesterday, but the kind of run-up that we saw, how are you reading it?
In fact, probably the run-up day before yesterday was largely technical and sell stops got triggered. But the fact remains that the raw sugar situation in the spot market is definitely tight because Brazil doesn't seem to be having too much of sugar to sell to the world. But as far as India is concerned, all this talk of Indian production being much lower than what originally was estimated, I think it's a little too premature to start punting on that. Because our take is that our crop numbers could be more or less like last year and maybe marginally lower. That's about it. Nothing beyond that.
The Food Secretary also spoke yesterday that there is going to be no sugar export quota extension before January. I mean, the market has been talking a lot about that as well. Now, we do have a clarity that for the next 15, 20 days, a month, perhaps, we wouldn't see that number. What is the number that the government is going to be comfortable with before they come out with an extension?
As far as the government is concerned, government feels that the closing stock at the end of the year should not be lower than 6 million tons. As per our calculations, the end stock could be closer to about anywhere between 7 to 8 million tons if India still sticks to about 6 million tons of export. But I would tend to agree with the Food Secretary in the sense that it's a little premature to start talking in terms of additional quota when you have still not fulfilled the 6 million export SOP which has been given. Because our exports during the month of November have been woefully low, and December also doesn't seem to be all that great.
So what is the number right now? How much has been contracted? How much has been shipped as of now?
Frankly speaking, I don't take the numbers as far as contracting is concerned. That has to be taken with a lot of pinch of salt. We don't know what the actual contracts could be, but in terms of exports, November was a very low month. In fact, only about 3.5 lakh tons sugar got exported. And December also looks like maybe 600,000-700,000 tons or thereabouts, which means that India will necessarily have to export close to about 5 million tons of sugar in the period between January and March, which means close to about 1.5 to 2 million tons of sugar every month. That in itself is going to be a reasonable challenge.
All right. So you're saying of the 6 million ton that was allowed, not even million ton has been exported till now?
That's right. That's right.
All
a
right.
lot of it could also be attributed to Indian sugar season starting a bit late, and then there were defaults in the domestic market, and then people were renegotiating, things like that. But the fact remains that physically not much of sugar has actually moved over the country.
Clearly. Also, when you look at the international markets, I mean, India's story is one, a bullish one if you look at that. The other is Brazil, as you mentioned, and the other is Thailand, where we're also looking at some concerns on harvest. Europe crop also seems to be lower this time around. Europe may also need to be importing. How do you look at the international scenario?
Internationally, we feel that sugar would remain relatively friendly. We are not, in fact, but to see that the sugar would reach that 18 cents mark or things like that, we don't really see that happening. Because even in the forward month and the future months, the discount is not all that great. Which means, and Brazil, if it harvests a regular and a routine crop, and diversion to ethanol still continues at the same pace, then the availability will be regulated. So which means sugar remain relatively friendly. And sugar now has an outlet for ethanol big time even in India. So all these things should keep sugar internationally also, I would not say very bullish, but definitely friendly.
Okay. I also want to talk about the demand part of it, given as we talk about all commodities in India, because we are into a wedding season and a festival season towards the year end rather, we see the sugar demand and various other commodities demand inching up. Is that the case with sugar as well? How are you looking at the demand for this month and the next?
In fact, I feel sugar in India is actually inflation-proof. Sugar prices have been hovering around 32 to 34 rupees a kilo range, and they have not moved an inch. World may have moved anywhere, and sugar prices in the domestic market are still more or less very, very benign.
Okay, how about the demand then?
Sugar consumption in the country is definitely on the upswing. In fact, this year we are penciling in an addition of about roughly 500,000 tons to take our sugar consumption at around 27.5 million tons. And this during the COVID period had plummeted to about roughly 26 million tons. So sugar demand is reasonably strong.
Okay. Mr. Chaturvedi, Manisha, thank you so much for joining us and taking us through that discussion. I don't know where the demand is coming from, but it's Friday, so Manisha, I think that calls for a dessert for sure. All right, that's the update as far as the commodity side of things are concerned. For the markets, we have seen a substantial recovery on the Nifty. It's down just 22 points as we speak. Mid-cap also has recovered, but still is the one that is underperforming a lot today. We'll have to see whether we do get into that green terrain or not. For now, markets are under pressure, but a substantial recovery is seen from the lows. With that, it's a wrap on Halftime Report. Stay tuned. Business Lunch will take all the action going forward.